Hello YouTube viewers, this is my review and prediction of the final 6th week of the quarterfinals of America's Got Talent Season 6. This episode was the wild card week. 12 acts from previous quarterfinals and Vegas weeks were brought back to given a second chance to perform. Once again, I'm going to pick the top 5 acts I think that will move on. Remember, only 4 acts will move on, and then starting next week is the semifinals. I don't know how they're doing it this year, but... So the first act was the Kinetic King. Now, you may remember the Kinetic King from a few episodes ago. He was the one who was a complete fail. His contraption failed all around, and this week we were all pulling for him because I felt so bad for the guy last week, and I was just like, work. And you know what? He did a big contraption, and it did work, and it was super cool. And I don't know if he'll move on, but it was really cool to see. So, fingers crossed, Kinetic King. The next act to go up was those funny little people brought back by the one and only Howie Mandel. You may remember them as the people dressed up as weird elves, and they dance around and lip sync. They are terrible, and Piers hates them. And they did their lip sync dance to Constantinople. I mean, it's kind of funny to watch just because it's funny to see them suck, but it's not an act for this type of show. And I definitely agree with Piers, and they should not move on. The next act to go up was Avery and the Calico Hearts, brought back by Miss Sharon Osbourne. They are the trio of 10-year-old little girls. They sing, they did good. They did Dynamite tonight, but they didn't do Dynamite. They did the song Dynamite. And they were okay. Like, their voices are like the Chipmunks. And I don't think they're going to move on just because they're not that good, and there were a lot of other better acts, so they were just okay. The next act to go up was Seth Grable. Now, there was a controversy tonight. One of the big issues was that 2 magicians were brought back to the wild cards, Seth Grable and Landon Swank. And there was this big who's going to make it through thing. So the first one to go up was Seth Grable, brought back by Howie Mandel. And what he did is he did like some jumping around, some dancing in a ring, and then he made a car appear behind some fog, and then out of it came 3 little kids dressed up like the 3 judges. It was cool, but like, I don't really like him as a person. I think he's cocky, and I definitely like Landon Swank a lot better as a person and as a magician. So I really hope he... The next act to go up was Siobhan. This is a female singer. I didn't recognize her really at all because she got eliminated in Vegas week. She was the only act to come back that got eliminated in Vegas week. And she never really got any FaceTime on the show at all. So it was just kind of weird and random that she was brought back by Sharon. I mean, she has a good voice. She just didn't stand out to me because I'm not connected with her emotionally from the past episodes. And, I mean, her voice isn't that spectacular, so I don't think she's going to move on. The next act to go up was West Springfield Dance Team. This is the only group that came back from the YouTube auditions. This was one of my favorite groups going into... I love their YouTube performance on the YouTube show, and I was so sad. I thought they definitely got robbed of their position. They should have made it through last week. I was mad. And this week, they did this Joker themed thing. They were all dressed up like the Joker from Batman, and I thought their choreography was good. They only had 5 days because the YouTube show was live last week, so they had 5-6 days to come up with a whole new routine to perfect it. They're a high school dance team. Do you know how hard that is? And the judges, Sharon loved them because they were Sharon's choice to come back, if you remember from last week, but Howie and Piers were giving them so much flack for not being completely in sync, and it's like, you don't see horror-themed dance troupes, and they are so cool. Their choreography is so cool, and you don't see stuff like that. Like, you see groups like Fatally Unique all the time, hip-hop dance troupes. you see groups like Attack Dance Crew, who was eliminated. You know? You don't see something like West Springfield Dance Team anywhere, really. It's so cool, so unique. I really hope they make it through, but I don't know. We'll see. The next act to go up was J. Chris Newberg. He's a comedian picked by Howie Mandel. You may remember him as the guy who is hated by Piers. Piers pretty much hates almost all comedians that ever go on the show. Tonight he did a Piers roast in honor of Piers, and it was really funny. He was getting Piers pretty good, and even at the end, Piers said those jokes were highly inappropriate and funny. So he won over Piers at least a little bit with this roast, so I think he has a good chance of moving on. The next act to go up was Yellow Design Stunt Team. This is the BMX bike stunt crew. They do tricks and ramp jumping. They did last time they were on, they did like a Mad Hatter Tea Party thing, and then this time they did like a pirate themed, but it was like kind of the same set. They were just dressed up as pirates. But again, it was really cool. They did have a little spill. One of the guys fell off of his bike, but other than that, it was intense. The tricks were good. I don't know if they'll move on just because it was really good, but last time I thought it was really good and I predicted them to move on and they didn't. So we'll see. Like these, as the rounds go on, the acts get harder and harder to choose who's going to go through. So we'll see. I hope they move on. The next act to go up was Charles Peacock. He was chosen by Piers Morgan. You may remember him as the juggler who got 2 buzzes last time he went on from Howie and Sharon because they thought his act was too slow. He bounced the balls on the piano. This time he did this juggling balls that are lit on fire plus a chainsaw. He only did 2 tricks, and he messed up one of them by dropping a knife. So I don't think he has any chance of moving on just because you have to really be perfect if you are a juggler in order to move on, and he wasn't. And I thought the next act to go was the Fiddleheads. They're the acoustic bluegrass band that like gives it a bluegrass spin on hip-hop songs. I love them from their audition in Vegas week. Last time in the quarterfinals, they weren't that good, but tonight they did Grenade by Bruno Mars, and I thought their interpretation on this was really, really cool. They got a buzz from Piers, which I really didn't understand. Piers didn't like it for some reason, but everyone else seemed to love it. I loved it, because I love the sound of bluegrass. And I think they have a good chance of moving on, even though they did. Now, the next act to go up was the Summer Wind Skippers, chosen by Piers Morgan. They are the jump roping dance troupe from Idaho, and they did a routine to Kesha's Blow, and it was really cool. They had a big spill. Like the ropes got tangled up when the 4 of them were jumping, and it like stopped the whole thing. But like Piers said, it's about how you recover, and they recovered really well. They lit the ropes on fire near the end, and that was pretty cool. Again, just like the Yellow Design Stunt Team, I don't know if they'll move on, because last time I thought they may move on, and they didn't. So we'll see. The final act of the night, the other magician I mentioned earlier in the show, Landon Swank. He is from Alaska, and I definitely like him a lot more than Seth Grable. He did this act where he was chained inside a box that was filled with water. He was handcuffed, and he had to escape, and then he had a minute, and then his assistant, who I think's his wife, came down, and then they lifted a curtain, and then they dropped it, and she was in the box, and he was outside. It was a really cool trick, and again, he just has this aura about him that just makes the trick a lot better because he's so slick with it. And I think between the 2 magicians, he will move on. Howie did mention that there is no rule against both magicians moving on, but I think he just has a better chance. So, and I don't think America would put through 2 magicians just because what's the point in that? But otherwise, he did really well. But the 4 acts I think will move on are Yellow Design Stunt Team, Fiddleheads, Landon Swank, and the Summer Wind Skippers. Now, I am not saying for sure these acts are going to move on. Remember, I am not always right. I am most of the time right. But this one I really think is a difficult one to call because I just think that all the acts were really equal except for a few. And it's really up to America and what America will preference. Some people like me would like West Springfield Dance Team. Some people will like the Yellow Design Stunt Team. Some people are going to like Landon Swank. Some people may even like those funny freaking little people. You know? It's really up to America and who the majority of America likes. So we'll see. Remember that America's Got Talent comes on Tuesdays and Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Remember to leave a comment down below if you want to. Remember to tell your friends to watch these videos, like the video. Next week I start the semifinals, and then after that the finals. And yeah, until next week.